This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series. So we are back here with our podcast again. Our podcast is about, helping men, and it seems to be also a lot of women, create dating lives that they really love by being authentic and real and honest with themselves in their living and how they communicate with the people that they date, instead of coming from a paradigm of that, there's a certain way that you have to be. Our true belief is that you actually have most of the tools innately available to you to communicate and to connect with people. It's just that we kind of mask them through layers of ideas, of other people's ideas a lot. So we're just here to help people just be more of themselves and be more open with who they are.
That was a great intro, David.
Made that up all the way.
Amazing.
Just made it up on the spot. So yeah. So that's what a podcast is about. If you're new here, and we are two guys who used to be dating coaches for a number of years, who have just gone on to kind of live life and travel and see the world and date lots and develop ourselves as people and search for who we are and come to find that we are everything and nothing and all at the same time. to be very poetic.
Wow.
Yeah, and the next thing is probably I want to thank listeners who have reviewed our podcast on iTunes, because it really helps more people see what we're doing and listen and find and learn, basically. So, if you're listening to this and you've listened to a few episodes before, or you enjoy this episode, it'd be wonderful if you could just go and review our podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, it really helps us become more visible
to the world, because it's all about who gets liked, who gets subscribers and stuff like that. So, and there's a lot of people out there, and I feel like there's not a huge amount of really good dating advice. Like, I've listened to quite a few of the dating podcasts, and a lot of them are kind of very comical, which I'm not against, but I think that we're not ultra serious, because we're not fucking serious, but we also try and just give you pure value over just making you laugh about our terrible dating lives, which aren't that bad actually.
In contrast to a lot of the memes and stuff that one sees about men and dating.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure I should feature in a few of those.
Yeah, exactly. And if you enjoy the episode, please share it with people on your social media, put it up as a story or as a post, and please tag us as well, so we can also share that you shared, and then you can share that we shared, and then we can do that whole kind of inception sharing thing, which I really like on Instagram.
Yeah,
I think I've only got so far as with doing it with someone as we got 3 or 4 levels deep in the sharing, but I quite like how you can just keep sharing it back and forth. Inception is one of my favorite movies. Sharing Inception. So yeah, what's Ahmad?
What's Ahmad?
Ahmad is come
Ahmad?
From the skies.
Yeah, what is Ahmad? You can look my name up on Urban Dictionary, actually.
What does that mean?
Pretty fucking cool. It's one of those names on Urban Dictionary. It's like, Ahmad is a really hot guy. It's it reads like that. I think it's literally one of the best ones. And yeah, everyone loves me. So, but actually that's not what he was going to say. He was going to say, what is this episode about? Ahmad, he's passing the mic over to me. So
Ahmad!
What is this? Yeah, what is this episode about? So this episode is about a question we have, a question that has arisen today and for all of time, is, do you have to be the perfect man to be successful in dating?
Of course.
I was just going to say, well, what does that actually mean? So what does it mean to be the perfect man? So the perfect man, in a sense that,
rich.
Do you have to be? Yeah, do you have to be rich?
Yes.
Do you have to be extremely cool?
Yes.
Suave?
Yes.
Have fine fitting Italian clothes?
Yes.
And the matching shoes?
Definitely.
And socks from that company that
makes socks.
That makes those really delightful socks.
The sock company.
Yeah, the sock company.
Yes, you have to have those socks.
And have it all together. Have it really all round. And this is actually something that a question. I mean, we pose it as a question, but the answer is no.
It could be yes. I joke, right? I say yes because I'm joking. Just get that right. I'm joking, and I joke because in your head, in a lot of people's heads, that's how it is, right? It's like, oh, I'm not enough of this, or I'm not that, so I can't be successful in dating.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned this once before in a previous episode where there were a couple of guys who talking to my girlfriend, and they were saying, like, they started off by asking her about their Tinder profile. They were just showing, they were like, hey,
good pickup line, that.
Yeah, I thought so. But then when she told them that, you know, we had a podcast and stuff, they were like, oh, I bet they are XYZ and
tall and white, have blonde hair.
Yeah, and she's like,
they work in banks.
Yeah, and she's like, no, actually, they're broke losers.
You sit in a house with some mics once a week.
Couple of, with rats.
Don't diss my pet rat, Johnny.
Yeah, no jokes, Dave. Serious dating advice here, Dave. Yeah. No,
you should date some rats.
So no, but basically, they had this inclination. I mean, this is what she told me anyway. But they really had it that unless you were of that skin color and of that wealth, that you would not be successful in dating. But actually, you know, this goes a bit further than just appearance. And this goes into like a lot of the dating advice that you just kind of get a sense of, like the 5 top things that you must do on a date, or the 5 things that you mustn't do on a date. And it's like, you have to be a certain way, you have to dress a certain way, you have to this, you know,
That's bollocks.
And you mustn't talk about this, and you should talk about that.
You should never talk about your past relationships. You should never talk about your ex.
Politics.
Never talk about sex and religion.
Yes. Yeah, things that can trigger.
Anything that could, don't talk about anything that could offend someone. So basically, when you go on a date, the best thing to do is just sit there silently.
Yeah, and wait for them to ask you questions. So this is where like this sort of question is posed, is like, you know, do you really have to have it all together to be successful in dating? And so the reason I keep repeating this is because this is more than just like the idea of being wealthy and being good looking and, you know, being suave and witty and this and that. And it goes down to the emotional state. It goes down to like how you feel about yourself, from moment to moment, from time to time, from day to day. You know, do you have to be super confident all the time? You know, do you have to really have all your shit together and just be this flawless, absolutely flawless diamond of a character? And so I said, like, we posed it as a question, but really for me, what arose originally and the origins of this episode is that I realized, no, like I actually realized that I can still be awkward as fuck. And in fact, I'm still alive. And in fact, you know, I manage a business and I operate seemingly quite successfully, given by the fact that I am still alive and I still have a job,
and you're still fucked up.
Yeah, and I run a podcast, and you know, I have a girlfriend, and she's, you know, she's cool, and she's cool with me, and this is the thing, and it's like, because often, you know, I meet guys who feel like, oh, they're not so good with women, they're not that, you know, whatever, you know, they can't flirt, they can't joke, they can't this, they can't that, whatever, and I'm like, you know what, mate, like, you know, I still feel that way myself, and I run a podcast where essentially we talk about this stuff all the time. And we did say right at the beginning of this podcast, not this particular episode,
the first episode,
like, you know, we don't have all the answers, and that was a disclaimer because we really don't.
Yeah, we don't know everything.
We don't know.
That's why we're bringing guests on, because we're hoping they know stuff too.
Yeah, we lure them in with cheese.
And hummus. Smoked hummus in particular.
Yeah. They like the celery sticks.
The celery sticks are nice.
Dave puts on quite a spread for the guests when they come. So, but anyway, so the thing is, it's like, actually what I discerned over time of being on this planet for 35 years is actually just being a human being. It qualifies you enough to be successful in dating. Now, there is something that came up in the preamble, and it's not something that Dave and I really consider very often, or at all, in fact. We don't consider it at all. But because we know there exist men out there that require this as a piece of advice or as a piece of information, we have to say this at this point. It's a bit like one of those, like,
disclaimer,
those gambling things, like, you know, past performance is not indicative of future.
if you're using your mortgage money to gamble, then you should stop.
So no, but this is...
Stop when the fun stops.
So, but this is on a basic level, and you know, you have to have the basics of being a civilized human being down. I feel on a very basic, and even that.
And what does being a civilized human being mean?
I mean, being civilized in society. So that just means
wearing clothes. Well, you don't have to. I mean, in some places, but in general, like hygiene. I think mainly we're talking about personal hygiene here. That's one of the big ones. Again, this is why me and Dave don't really consider it on a day-to-day basis, because it's not something I've ever had to deal with. Sometimes I worry I smell. You know, sometimes you're like, oh man, you put your arm near your armpit and you're like, ooh.
But that's the thing, Dave. That's the thing. Sometimes you worry about it, right? Some people are not even considering it. Like,
and they need to.
And that's what we're talking to.
And they need to be considering it.
Yeah. They need to be considering it, you know. Like, you know, the fact that you worry is a good thing. So it means, you know, you're keeping on your...
Keep it on top of it.
Yeah, that's it. You know, keep it on top, you know, and then hot days in the underground and whatnot,
Yeah,
you know, you're aware.
Sometimes I have a spare t-shirt in the bag.
So for those guys that are not aware, when it's hot and you're in the underground and you're sweating and you're feeling a bit wet under the armpits,
give it a kick.
There's a good chance that you're smelling.
Yeah. And also, I'm going to say something here on this one. Guys, so a lot of the men's deodorants out there, I won't even call them deodorants, they're just kind of spray things you put under your arms.
Oh, yeah.
They're not antiperspirants. What you want to be dealing with is, I'm going to admit this quite freely, I use women's antiperspirant because it's a much nicer smell. Men's ones have this really, like, aggressive, manly smell to them, you know? And I'm not really an aggressive man, so I don't really want to smell like an aggressive man.
Okay.
So I use Dove.
Okay.
And it's like slightly like sweeter smell. It's a women's one. It's nice. Men, go and invest in that. Because like I smell a lot of guys sometimes and there's like a mix of BO and it's aggressive Lynx or something like that. And it's like, what you really need is some antiperspirant. We're really going off topic here a bit. But
we are. And just to say as well, other female deodorant brands are available.
Sure. What other ones are there?
Yeah. I don't know.
I like Dove.
I use another brand. We're not being sponsored, but I'm not saying their name unless they pay me.
Dove, if you'd like to sponsor our podcast,
pay me.
We'd be happily be. I'd love a lot of deodorant myself.
You know what? I'm quite fortunate that I don't smell too bad, but I'll have some deodorant. In fact, I've got some like nondescript version at the moment. It's like one of those natural ones.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I find they're right in the winter, but in the summer it's just like it can't deal with the power.
Yeah, you're on a different level, but at least you see, David is aware.
I'm aware.
So we're referring to guys here that are just not aware. So anyway, just got that out of the way. That's not what we're dealing with here at the moment. What I'm actually referring to is this whole kind of concept of like really, you know, we see certain characters on TV like James Bond, and then we aspire, and by we I mean me. And I aspire to be like James Bond. And then you eventually, you know, you turn 35 and you realize, you know, you're just never going to be a white man
with an Aston Martin.
With an Aston Martin, unless of course you are a white man.
And you're fighting baddies whose eyes cry blood.
And you're like, your driving license has like every vehicle on there because you can everything, including skiing. It's just like everything. So yeah, but like this whole like endless sense of like having to get every bit of us like perfected so that we can then be the perfect date. It's not necessary. And so yeah, so my main message here is about not having to actually be perfect. It's a case of, you're making hand signals, Dave. What does that mean? 50, 10, 15. Are we 15 minutes in? Okay,
yes.
Great. We didn't start the timer. Sorry, guys. This is shambles. We're talking about women's deodorant. Haven't started the timer on the clock. We didn't even talk about
aftershave.
Oh, man. Oh, don't get me started. I got
clean clothes.
Yeah. But, yeah. Anyway, so point being is, what I come to realize is actually, you know, it's not about fixing everything that's wrong, you know, in every aspect. Like, so, you know, going back to what I was saying before, like, you know, I can still feel very awkward at times, and yet I still manage to get a beautiful woman, and be in a beautiful relationship. And you know, for me, what I discerned over the years is, well, what happened? You know, because I set off in this path to really perfect every aspect of my life, and that definitely didn't happen. And so, what's obvious to me is, yeah, it's not actually about fixing everything, but actually it's about accepting who you are for who you are, and actually starting there as a foundation. And actually, that's where I feel my journey began, and that was at least like 10 years ago, where I first had this like realization where I just wasn't accepting myself for myself. And what that means is really accepting everything. So most of us are like, oh yeah, cool, I like those cool things about myself, like my ninja skills and my champion horseback riding and my world leadership skills. I'm just making these up, but then, you know, what we don't like is like, oh, I feel like shy to speak in front of 100 people, or I feel nervous at times, or I feel like inadequate in comparison to Elon Musk. You know, I
think most people do.
But, you know, I've actually been reading his book recently, and he actually personifies exactly what I'm talking about as well. Because you know, the older we get as well, we see all these characters that we look up to, and maybe sometimes we ridiculously think that they're perfect, and he's definitely not, and he's not even trying to be. You know, he's just being himself. And in fact, a lot of the world's greatest people have quirks, and massive. They just get on with it. You know, they're not trying to be like all rounded, perfect human being. They're just trying to live and do what they feel urged to do. You know, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like, you know, we are human beings, and we have positives and we have negatives, and we have things that we like and dislike. And this kind of goes to the yin yang symbol. And something I keep hearing now is, you know what? There's the black, and then there's the white, and there's a little bit of white in the black, and a little bit of black in the white. But the whole thing is what makes the symbol, and that's what it is to be a human.
No, I think I really resonate with AJ saying there. It's like accepting yourself is like, I think that especially early on, I think it's something you do as when you're younger, as you think, I have to be a certain way. I need to be different to how I am, right? To, you know, get where I want to. And especially with women, you often, you see another guy and you think, he knows what he's doing. I need to be like him. I think this is where the whole pickup industry kind of really came from, was that, if you don't know that much history about it, you're going to get a little bit of history, is that very much was like men were very frustrated and they didn't know what to do with women. So they spent a lot of time watching men who were good with women, basically. And then thought, okay, you know, as good studious men would do, they took notes and they, you know, they drew diagrams.
Copious notes.
They drew diagrams and they formed systems and they just copied and imitated and thought, okay, if I just do what they do, that's what's going to work. And, you know, there was some success, I think, in that. But I think equally what there was a lot of inauthenticity, you know, people not being themselves. But you were kind of reinforcing that belief that you aren't good enough.
You don't have it.
Yeah, you don't have it. You're not good enough. You need to be like someone else to get where you want to. And really what we're saying here is that that's far from the truth. It's more about accepting your own flaws and who you are, and being honest with yourself, and also being honest with others about yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because what I discovered over time is that it's like that saying, you know, the old saying of that there's someone for everyone. And, you know, over time, what I notice is we always end up meeting people, like in terms of dating, it doesn't matter like where you're meeting people, but you always end up meeting someone who's essentially a reflection of where your self-confidence is at. They're a reflection of you, your energy, your vibe, your style, your worldview, your whatever, right? Like you tend to gravitate towards those people and attract them. So this is not like a linear progress. I find this is a wave. This is like, so wherever you're at in life, like, you know, if you're feeling pretty low and down and whatever, you'll tend to attract that sort of vibe towards you. And so this is why it's like you when you become more comfortable with yourself and actually accepting of yourself, you tend to meet someone who is actually also very comfortable and accepting of you and how you are, because there's a level of maturity that comes with that. And I think that's the biggest thing here, is like, it's recognizing that as a human being, that you're just going to be Like there's going to be a constant. Yeah, well, I think I said it really well there. You're just going to be.
Yeah.
Like whatever you're being in the moment is totally fine. And the more, like, you know, the older we get, it's like, oh, I can feel shy sometimes, whatever. But the way it impacts me is infinitesimal compared to how it used to be, right? It's like tiny. It's like back in the day, be like, oh no, people are going to know that I feel concerned that I'm going to forget my lines or whatever, like before giving a talk at work or in school or whatever. And then you get to the point where you go, oh no, yeah, no one can actually read my thoughts. Like it's totally okay. And no one actually knows what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, just going to make this up as I go along.
I'll give a really good example actually. And this is outside of dating, but it's an example about Ahmad. He did a speech at a friend of ours' wedding a few years back. And midway through the speech, you slightly forgot your place.
I forgot it. I didn't slightly. I actually forgot.
You completely forgot where it was, and he had to refer to his paper that was inside his jacket. Everyone erupted in laughter because he really did stop and go, "I forgot where I am. Let me check my paper." And he pulled the paper out of your jacket, and everyone in the crowd was laughing.
Yeah.
I obviously, because I'd heard the speech, I knew that he had actually forgotten because I kind of remembered what was coming next. But everyone else in the crowd thought it was like part of the kind of show and really laughed and enjoyed it. And, you know, afterwards they're like, oh, you know, when you did that thing where you forgot what you were saying, and I remember you going to people, no, I forgot. And they're like, no, it was really funny.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how you are in life. We're out here all kind of worried about how we're being, but no one actually knows. They're too busy thinking about how they're being to notice like about your kind of mistakes and your flaws. So it's a case of just being a bit more, you know, as Ahmad was in that moment, just being accepting that he forgot instead of trying to hide that he forgot. He just accepted that, oh, wait, I've forgotten a bit here. I'm just going to say what's going on for me and then carry on from there.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I mean, yeah, that was a great example and one about me. Amazing.
Even better because it was about you.
Yeah. I couldn't wait to hear what you're going to say about me. I love hearing about me.
I think there was a small piece of poo that was coming out of him.
That's 2 episodes where he's referred to poo. Anyway, so, but yeah, that was a good example because it's true. Yeah, I forgot my lines and yeah, everyone thought it was hilarious because I had all the notes in my pocket and there was like 4 sheets together. But because I'd rehearsed so many times, I zipped through the page. I knew exactly where it was, and I looked at it, and then they just thought, "Oh, that he did that too quickly." But there you go. Yeah. So yeah, this is about like, you know, really learning to embrace the good and the bad in us, and then becoming very comfortable with just sharing. So, you know, the thing is, if you are not. Like if you're not comfortable with it, then then this is the opposite. This is exactly the opposite. So for example, like, you know, if you're not comfortable expressing these, what I would term as the darker sides of us, like the lighter sides, like the happiness, the joy, the love, and then the darker sides, the anxiousness, the neuroticness, the geekiness, the neediness, the insecurity, the shyness. Like if you don't feel comfortable expressing that, then it's very hard for someone to really understand and resonate with you and connect with you. Like I can be all of those things, in just one day, in just a moment. But the fact for me nowadays is I feel very relaxed in this. And, you know, to the point that I've started advising guys who come to me and they say, oh yeah, like, oh, I don't feel very confident, whatever. I'm like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like, I feel like even though I've done all of this studying and I used to coach guys and this and that, I can still be very nervous. I can still be very this and that and whatever. And yet, you know, I have what some guys would look at me and be like, oh, he's successful in dating.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I remember that there's that crucial point back in the day when you transform from a wallflower to one of the people that's actually engaged with women in the club and having fun and just talking to people in general, whatever, right? And then there's that moment where you look back, and Dave was looking at me like I don't remember these memories because he didn't have this problem. But for me, it's like you look back and you see that there's other guys that are against the wall looking at you, going, "Ah, I wish I was that guy." And you're like, "Man, I used to be you.
Look how far I've come."
Yeah. From the wall to the floor, to the dance floor. Yeah. So yeah, it's just one of those things, and like Dave said right at the start, other people are looking at other people thinking, oh, he must be so good, so great. And I tell you what, right now, like, this is the most fascinating thing that really blew my mind the older I got, is like, everyone is fucked up.
Everybody.
in unique ways,
Yeah.
in their own unique, in ways that you couldn't even fathom. Like, you know, just because they got money, for example, or they're successful women, doesn't mean that they've got everything
All their
together.
problems go away.
Yeah, because and this is maybe going a little bit deeper here, right? It's definitely going a little bit deeper. But basically, no one's got a fucking clue what's going on in the world in general, like day to day. They have plans and they take actions and they move towards their goals, but days are random. You don't know what the weather, even the weather forecaster doesn't know really what the weather's going to be like. I like to call his bluff and say it's going to be sunny. And it often does turn out to be sunny when I want it to be. I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, it's going to be sunny. Point being is, you know, we live in this random reality. And there's so much stuff going on, and majority of people don't. It's mostly the people that say they have control are definitely the ones that have the least.
Yes,
It's like
because if you're out in the world trying to admit that, you know, you have control of your shit, the truth is you really have no control of your shit. Because you know, more and more I see now is like, life, things just happen, and there's so many things in life that can happen now that are completely outside of your control, right? You could read every book about dating in the world, learn all the stuff that needs to be read. There's a lot of books out there. And you could go into a bar and you'd be like, I know everything. I know every outcome that can occur. And you go over to a girl, start talking to her, and then she turns around and goes,
I'm a man. That's the world we live in today.
That is the world we live in. Yeah, that could be it. And that's the one eventuality you hadn't accounted for. You'd be like, oh, she's a man dressed as a woman, you know. And you're suddenly, you realise that, you know, you can't control everything. There's things that are just outside of your control. That wasn't the example I was thinking of. I was going to say, like, she could be deaf, and then you're like, suddenly you're kind of a bit bamboozled because, you know, maybe, you know, you don't know any sign language, or not deaf. Yeah. And you don't know any sign language, or, you know, it's dark in the club and she can't lip read. But I mean, it's like, it's just a case of, when it comes to, you know, we're going to pull back on point a little bit here. When it comes to like being successful, is you don't have to be perfect. We're all flawed. Like, I sit here today and I go on dates sometimes and I sit and rabbit on about like past relationships, women I've been sleeping with and stuff like that. And these are all things that people would go, oh, you shouldn't never talk about. Or I love to talk about religion and politics, particularly because I think, you know, these are the things that are important to us as humans. And I like to talk about sex, or I'll talk about all of them on a date, because that's what's of interest to me. And some people won't really like what I have to say, and that's cool. I don't really, that's fine. But I equally am open about my flaws and my own problems I've had in my life, and things that I fucked up and got wrong, because I think that's incredibly important. And I think in all of your life, but it's particularly in dating, is that you're human. You come across as being human. Like, if I ever met someone and they come across as overly perfect, I'm instantly suspicious. I think as humans, we become very uncomfortable with people who seem too perfect, because it just all seems there's nothing, you know, it's all too perfect. No one is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and very much the same way. Like, for me, in terms of conversation, I mean, I've always felt that I habitually say dumb shit. Like, and it's, you know, something that I've worked very hard to change over the years, and it just seems it's here to stay. I've just got better at filtering. Like, sometimes I just don't say it, but it comes up in my head still. And the thing is, so what's really fascinating about that is that over time, what I noticed is the more I just accepted and like surrendered to certain things, then, you know, I'm able to meet people that actually find that endearing. They understand the awkwardness. They understand the nerdiness. And instead of, you know, trying to be someone else, I'm just being me.
yeah.
And all these things that I was worried about actually become very unique character traits. And, you know, people laugh at me and stuff, and I laugh at myself.
And that's how it is.
Yeah. And in general, you know, I really do feel way chill, have lots of fun. and concern myself less like with stuff. And you know, the bonus side of that is the more you accept yourself, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, the more compassionate you become for everyone else around and other people when you meet them. And that has a knock-on effect, because you see, then they feel more relaxed around you, people in general. And this is, you know, this is especially important in dating, because the more you feel relaxed and you can communicate on that level, then, you know, you're no longer just treating people based on their looks or because she's a woman or whether it's that. Like, you're connecting on a human level. And that's something that, you know, you just can't buy. Like, that's like, there's people here alive today, you know, they reached a ripe old age of 80 or whatever, and never really got that far because they just were too afraid to let others see who they really were.
And one of the things as well, like, just to kind of add, is that when you stop kind of judging yourself so strongly as being like, you know, not good enough or not enough or not suave enough or not perfect enough, you start to judge other people less that you meet. You won't be so judgmental in terms of the people, and then you'll be more accepting of who they are, and they'll be more accepting of you. And like we said before, that is what really will create connection, where you're non-judgmental and you'll say, I don't know, yeah, my last relationship, you know, it was me. I wasn't communicating very well, and it made our relationship fall apart. And someone will listen to you and go, oh, wow, that's really, you know, honest of you to admit that. And you go, yeah, it's just, you know, I see to be true. And, you know, then they may go, oh, look, you know, I've always felt like I wasn't a particularly good communicator, and I find it really hard to be open with my feelings because, you know, I feel like it just doesn't look good if I'm saying how sad or unhappy I am. And boom, those are the things that create connections between people. That creates connection between two people, and two people can kind of let their guard down, not be judgmental of each other, and just say what's true for them.
Yeah, very good point. So I don't know if did we mention this already? So like David did pretty much round us off, but I think you said it from your point of view about being too perfect. But you know, the thing is about this whole perfection and being super slick and suave and always having the right thing to say, is that's not what women want. Like, the women want someone who's real, someone who they can converse with, they can face challenges with, and live a life with. You know, if that's, you know, going for that sort of partnership. You know, they're not looking for someone who's like completely like James Bond, like slick and this and that, and everything.
Even James Bond had his flaws, you know.
Only in the books, only like in the movies, like he was always slick. But in the books, you really got to see, you know, he had fears. He thought he was going to die half the time. Yeah. There's a lot more times in the books that Ian Fleming books does James Bond believe he's going to die than is portrayed in the movies. Yeah. I think they're kind of...
The new ones, the Daniel Craig movies are a bit better.
Oh, yeah. I actually prefer them. They're a lot more raw. So yeah, it's like understanding that, you know, that's what... You know, women want to date men, like human men.
Real men with emotions and flaws, who are willing to admit their flaws as well and be open about how they feel and their flaws, and not men who are trying to be classically masculine by being completely strong and having their shit together all the time, because that's not a real human being.
And the thing is, if you haven't figured this out already, I'll tell you why that is. And it's because they are human and they have flaws,
and they want to be able to communicate them as well. Yeah,
exactly. And so, you know, coming across as too perfect or too clean or too this or too that, it's like, it actually, I mean, you actually said this in a preamble, David. It's like, some women can find that intimidating. They can find it off-putting. It's just like, it makes them feel insecure. And it's not just women, it makes others. You know, when you're hanging around someone who just seems too perfect, it's just like, fuck, like, why am I...
It just makes people feel, and also makes people feel inadequate, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So I hope that answers the question. Do you need to be perfect in order to be successful in dating? Yes. A resounding yes from both sides. Perfect at being human, which basically means being okay with your flaws, with your but also, you know, being okay with your good points as well. I think the last thing I'll just say on this is, in that respect, is this is something someone said to me, is like, you know, when you can really accept what your flaws are, then you can really be in a partnership, because you can then go, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not so good at. And then you can share that in a partnership. Someone else will be like, okay, well, I'm actually pretty good at those things you're not so good at, but I'm not so good at the things that you are good at. So this could really work. You know?
That's a partnership.
Yeah, that's a partnership. That's a team effort. That's something that has some longevity, as opposed to, you know, the opposite.
Pretending to be perfect.
Yeah,
and hiding all your flaws.
And then eventually, you know, breaking down in tears and taking drugs and
having fun
to keep that. No, taking the other drugs, the ones the ones that you need to take just to keep
going,
keep happy, and keep going. Yeah. So, so to recap, I think that was a recap. Really, the recap was, in general, to be a perfect guy, actually just be human and accept yourself, accept those things that you dislike about yourself, and in terms of the exercise for this episode, like what I would say is actually consider for yourself now, what are those things that you don't accept and you're not willing to accept, and understand that all you have to do is accept yourself for yourself, all of it, and everything becomes a lot easier. When I first did this as an exercise, like I actually started laughing when it hit, when the penny dropped, because it was like, oh man, like, oh fuck, like I haven't been accepting that I feel insecure. Like I was always chasing this concept of more confidence. If I just had confidence.
But confidence is really accepting, to a certain degree, in my opinion, a lot of confidence is accepting who you are.
And there's a lot to be said in terms of confidence being something that it's not something that you have, it's something that you build, like in various ways. So this is the thing, it's like just accepting that there are things that you need to progress in, and things that you could learn, and that you're not a whole, complete, perfect human being. That's not what life's about. It's about the journey, it's about the experiences, it's about learning, it's about exploring, it's about finding out, and then doing it all over again, because as you get older, there's just new things, new experiences. So yeah, there you go. I hope you guys have found that interesting and useful. We've really poured our hearts out into this episode and our truths, and how we really are, and how we're still very successful.
We're still alive.
We're still very we're still very alive, we're still very successful. Yeah, and please do get in touch if you found this episode interesting, or if you have any questions about what we've said, because I feel like we've touched on quite some deep ideas and topics, and you know, I understand that it's not always easy to digest these things. So please do, if you have any questions, get in touch. We'll definitely get back to you. We're eager to hear from you and get back. And, you know, if you love what we're doing, tell your friends, subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Wherever you see subscribe and Authentic Dating Series, press subscribe.
Wherever you see follow, press follow.
Follow, for us especially.
When you see like, say like. And if you follow and like us on all platforms, we'll send you naked pictures.
Of Donald Trump.
With the Queen.
Photoshopped or hand-drawn. Yeah. So yeah, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and this has been the Authentic Dating Series.
Cheers. Ciao.